What's the YouTube? Dell here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you an update to Swordsoul. Now this got second at locals, and obviously the way the deck is built is dependent on your local environment, but I'll talk to you about the kind of cards you can shift and change. The best thing about that as well is I do expect Swordsoul to pretty much go through the ban list unscathed, so it's a relatively safe deck to be picking up right now because it can still compete and could possibly survive that ban list. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe to not miss out on any more upcoming content, especially with the Megatins due out next week. So I'm going to go through the list as quickly as possible in regards to the cards that are pretty staple, and that's Mo Yi at 3, no surprise there, alongside Long One at 3, Double Tire, and then Triple Ecclesia. Like, that is bread and butter standard. I don't feel you should be doing any less unless you can't afford or can't get hold of the particular cards themselves. And if you can't, then probably what I would say, especially with Mo Yi probably being the most expensive of all of them, I would focus on that one last. Like, get at least one copy. It's the absolute base minimum you need. And then you can also utilize the Ecclesias, because Ecclesias will technically count as a Mo Yi as well. It's not ideal. Like, obviously, if you get the ability to get everything in one go, then do that. But if you're like, well, okay, well, I need to build this bit by bit, where do I start? Well, start by trying to get the Swordsoul monsters themselves, and if you're struggling to get multiple Mo Yis, get at least one, because I think Mo Yis are like £10 a copy, and then the Ecclesias are like 3 or 4. Especially post the ban list, this deck could start creeping up a little bit as well, as I do expect its representation to do a lot better. Then for the 10 years, now this is where ratios usually change, but I'm going with 3 Ashuna. Some people will play 2 Vishuda, but this card has got me out of so many holes, it's unreal. Like, the amount of time my opponent will go, okay, cool, flip a Floodgate, and I'm like, okay then. And then all you need is Vishuda plus a 10 year. Because what a lot of people forget is Vishuda, or even the Tenyis themselves, can be banished from hand or graveyard. So all I need to do is have a non-effect monster on the board, and I can then banish Vishuda to bounce any card. And that's how you can bait out like a Floodgate. That's how you can bait out a boss monster. It really does cause a lot of issues. So it absolutely amazing. Yes, it sucks if you open up multiple, but even then, you can still, even if you open up 2, you special on 1, you turn it into Monk, and then you activate the Vishuda from hand to bounce a card. Like, it's really, really good in that sense. I've gone with 2 Adhara and the 1 at Shafana. Again, I really still like playing the Shafana because a lot of people forget that when it's in the graveyard, if a normal monster you control is destroyed, whether you destroy it with Blackout or if your opponent destroys it, you get the ability to banish this and then bring that back. So that's really kind of cool because it gives you that ability to crash a monster, to pop a monster, and then revive it so you don't lose anything. But then it also gives you that ability as being a level 4, which sometimes does come up. So for example, you could special summon down Safana, and then you could, for example, normal summon an Ash Blossom and sink into a Yazi. Or what you could probably do more times than not is normal summon Mo Yi, Mo Yi's effect spawn a token, and you can leave Mo Yi on the board if you want to. So it just gives you a couple of different options to play around with, which is quite nice. And then Adhara obviously gives you that ability to just constantly keep recycling stuff as long as you control a non-effect monster, banish it from the graveyard, add a banished one back. So that's great because you can banish loads of stuff off of your Yugioh, and then obviously you're going to constantly keep adding that back. So that can give you your Swordsoul resource. Onto the hand traps. These are all dependent on your local environment. So triple Ash Blossom, I go with double Veiler because a lot of people actually underestimate how good Veiler can be. The one thing that Veiler has that Imperm doesn't is the fact that it's a level 1 tuner. So there will be times, and trust me, it happens, where you open up a Vishuda and a Veiler. So you can just special summon Vishuda, normal summon Veiler, synchro into a Yugioh, search out a long one, combo off. It does happen. And then we've got 2 Imperm. Again, you can probably play 3 if you want to. It really does come down to personal preference, what you've got access to, and then pretty much building it up as it is. Like, Veiler is probably the one that is missing from most builds, which I completely understand. But I do feel that it's one of the ones that if you can find the space, definitely put it in, because it just, there will be those odd times when you're like, I've got nothing to do. Wait, I've got a Veiler, I can normal that and actually make plays. So it does happen, and it's happened to me quite a lot. Like, a lot of people have faced me with Swordsoul, and they've gone normal summon Veiler, synchro off, and like, damn. Like, they're top decking, they've got a 10 year in their top decking, and they top deck the Veiler and just go off. Triple Emergence, you know, until, like, this is probably the most logical one to get here, but even then, it's still far down the priority list, in my opinion. I still play 2 Circle and the 1 Dragon Cycle. So, sorry, 2 Heavenly, 1 Vessel. Is, again, ratios really come down to personal preference. Some people play 2 and 2. Some people will play 3 and none. I really like this ratio of 2 and 1. This one actually puts in a lot of work as well when you see it and when you feel you need it. But then you don't want to clog down with it, which is why I've only got one. And then this is just great. Like, the Banish from Graveyard to add is insane. The quick effect to dodge Imperms, Veilers is also insane. Really, really good card. Puts in a lot of work for the deck. For board breakers, I've gone with 2 Forbidden Droplet. This is just for my local environment. Like, cash is kind of starting to dwindle out. It's very rare that anyone's putting a Rise Heart on the board. If I do come up against decks that are playing with Rise Hearts, then I can either tag these out for Call by the Graves, not Call by the Graves, sorry, Darkworld and No Mores, or they get upgraded to stuff like Nibiru's, a third Veiler, third Imperm, you name it. Like, you've got ability to flex around with it. I kind of went with 2 cards that were go second board breakers in the form of talents and droplets. You don't have to play these at all. They just kind of, it suits my local environment like better than anything else. And then for the draw cards, we've got 2 Desires. It's probably the best card for this deck because you play a lot of 3-ofs. And then being able to banish 10, especially when you can get into your Giant Sovereign, is just absolutely insane. Like, I think a lot of people actually undervalue how good this card is, because just bringing this card on the board and then Desires, getting to banish from field and grave, and then just making this a fat stack is insane. Not just a fat stack as well, but also reducing your opponent's attack, just so annoying. And then the final 2 cards is the 1 Emergence and the 1 Blackout. Again, a lot of people, 1 Summit and 1 Blackout. A lot of people don't play the Summit. Completely understandable, but again, there's times where this has come up and actually saved my ass, and I'm like, okay, well, through just general loyalty, you've put in a lot of work, so I'm going to keep you for now. If at any point I feel like, okay, it's too much, and this is like a 41 card deck, if I feel it's too much, this comes out, or if I feel I need a second Blackout, I'll bump Blackout up to 2. There are times when I'm bouncing back and forth between 1 Blackout and 2 Blackout, so I've kind of settled on the 1. You don't really want to be, especially when you've got 1, you definitely don't want to be banishing it from the deck. If anything, you definitely want to be getting this off of your Yugioh, and you've got to be very careful of stuff like Dart Rulers, which is why you kind of want to be utilising Blackout more. And then you can obviously Yugioh, banish this from the graveyard, spawn a token, and you're good to kind of push your plays further forward the next turn as well. So that's it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, for the links, of course, we are playing... Now, I'm only playing double Monk and the 1 Shaman. Now, I know, that, again, this is a card that this is probably like the last thing that I changed. Right at the last minute, I was like, right, okay, I really want to make sure I've got a play in my extra deck for Kashtira, so I went with the Ice Jade, and I didn't need to. This can very easily be the third monk. I was like, what card could I cut that I'm going to utilise the least? And ultimately I was like, okay, well, trying to get to 3 monks is only going to be in a massive, massive grind game. I do not expect to be in a massive, massive grind game. So I took it out, and ultimately I missed it in my last game. It was against Altergeist, and they were just able to kind of, like, again, that was the grind one. Everything else is a little bit faster, but the grind game of Altergeist was just too much, and I was like, okay, I needed a third monk in that one. So that's where the mistake kind of came into play, but you learn and move on. For the synchros, for the 7s of skills, we got Yazi, and then we got double Baxia, double Yugioh, pretty stand on that one. Draco Berserker, Chaofeng as your level 9. You know, being able to protect from Nibiru sometimes while you're wormlocked is quite important, because you will lose a turn if they Nibiru you at the right time, especially if you wormlock yourself. Like, if you wormlock yourself, they're sitting there smugly like, yep, okay, cool, got them. And then you go, like, you move your play towards a Chaofeng before you either, like, commit a normal summon, or you force them to Nibiru you early, or you just lock them out completely. For the 10s, of course, I went with the Ice Jade. Now, again, it was one of them ones where, okay, well, if the random cash matchup did turn up, then I had this to do it, but it didn't, so this can very easily come out. Baron, Chen Ying, your Giant Sovereign, like, this guy's insane. Like, burn twice, banish, okay, and draws as well. And then the final card I went with is Psychic End Punisher. So you can make this with any level 4 token plus a Vishuda or an Ashuna. It comes up rarely, but it's one of them ones where this got me quite a few wins because not a lot of people were expecting it in the deck. And it's like, okay, cool. So you've got Moyi and a token, so you can go into a level 8. They're like, yeah, okay, that's what I'm expecting, and a Vishuda. And I was like, hang on a minute. This has been such a grind game, like, or not a massive, massive grind game in comparison to the All Guys one, but I was like, okay, I've taken a bit of damage. I was trying to push back, so why not just make Psychic End Punisher, banish the Moyi on my board through the effect of Psychic End Punisher to reduce another 1,000, clear off a card that's giving me issues, and then just go one shot. and they actually put in a lot of work. So this will be a lot easier to get past post Megatins as well. So it'll make the build a lot easier to build. It'll make the build a lot easier to build. Okay, cool. It'll make the deck a lot easier to build with this exact list if you want to post Megatins as well. But still a really kind of cool boss monster. Again, you don't have to play this. If you're like, okay, I want to keep the Ice Jade in because I do have a lot of Cashiers running around, then you go, right, okay, we get rid of Psychic and Punisher. Or if I don't have access to Baron, okay, well, that's your third monk. It's not an ideal trade, like for like, but until we get the Anniversary Collection set, Baron is still going to be quite difficult for everyone to get a hold of. But I'm hoping with the Anniversary set, at least super rare of Baron will be incredibly easy to get a hold of, but you never know. Anyway, that is it for the list. I hope this has given you a couple of ideas on your own build. Like I said, have a look at the list, adapt it to what you see fit, what works for you. Like I said, with the hand traps, it kind of came down to personal preference, kind of come down to local environment, and you kind of adapt it accordingly to make sure that it works with your playstyle and the environment itself in general. Anyway, for now, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Any questions at all, by all means, please put them in the comments down below. Always more than happy to answer them for you. But for now, as absolutely always, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.